Have you ever wondered what it truly means to be called gifted? For years, I quietly carried the weight of that label because while everyone saw achievements, internally I struggled with perfectionism and a constant fear of failure. So, in this video, using my own personal experience and some relatable examples from Bungo Stray Dogs, I'm going to show you the hidden burden behind being gifted, how it silently shapes your identity, and why it deeply affects your resilience when faced with real life challenges. Now, for many people, being called gifted or even a genius feels like the ultimate praise. But if we're not careful, our entire identity can become wrapped up in these labels, creating pressure, pride, and ultimately a pretty fragile self image. And to help me illustrate this point, let's look at Rampo from Bungo Stray Dogs. Now, Rampo works for the Armed Detective Agency and is stated to be the greatest detective in the world. This title, alongside his self-proclaimed ability super deduction, gives great pride and meaning to Rampo. However, he discovers that his ability isn't supernatural at all. It's simply his natural intelligence and keen deductive reasoning at work. And initially, he struggles to admit this truth, afraid of disappointing the agency and losing his sense of, well, being special. But when Rampo finally accepts that his value doesn't depend on having a special ability, his pride transforms into something deeper, a deeper sense of responsibility and genuine self-confidence. And as for me, I felt pretty similar pressures. Being labeled gifted from an early age made me feel like I had to be perfect, that I couldn't afford to make mistakes or else I'd just lose my own self-worth. But over time, I realized that being gifted is just one small part of who I am and is not my entire identity. So how can you move past this pressure and rediscover who you are beyond just being gifted? I want you to take 10 to 15 minutes to honestly reflect, whether if that's writing it down or recording your thoughts, on how being labeled as gifted has shaped your identity. Now, there's no right or wrong answer here. I just want you to identify any negative beliefs or pressures you might have felt and see how they can be reframed into something good. So now that you started to separate your identity from the label of being gifted, let's take this one step further. Because being gifted isn't just a simple label, it's honestly a double-edged sword. And that's why next I'll show you exactly how to embrace this duality, turning what feels like your heaviest burden into your greatest strength. The truth is, being gifted can make you feel special and unique, but it can also leave you feeling lonely, anxious, and constantly pressured to perform. And a character who deeply understands the struggle is Atsushi Nakajima, the main character from Bungo Stray Dogs. See, Atsushi's gift, Beast Beneath the Moonlight, lets him transform into a powerful, giant white tiger. But instead of feeling special, this power made Asushi, well, isolated and honestly just misunderstood. And growing up in an orphanage where he was mistreated and experimented on and even rejected by everyone around him, all because of something he didn't even fully understand himself. However, Asushi's isolation finally ended when he joined the Armed Detective Agency. For the first time, he felt truly seen and accepted, not as some dangerous monster, but as a valuable person. This sense of belonging helped him not only control his powers, but also heal emotionally from years of rejection. So how can you find peace with this duality where your gift feels both like a blessing and a curse, just like Atsushi? Well, the answer is community. Just as Atsushi found acceptance in the Armed Detective Agency, you need at least one person who truly relates to your experiences. It could be a friend, family member, mentor, or even an online community. Having authentic conversations with people who genuinely empathize can help you feel less alone. And personally, this has been incredibly helpful for me. I've connected with a fellow YouTuber who understands my struggles with growth and growing a channel, and I have friends who relate to the pressures of always needing to be the responsible one and trying to be perfect. Just what I want you to remember is that having even one person who understands your battle, even partially, is far better than facing it completely alone. And don't forget that your gifts don't have to isolate you if you find people who appreciate both your talents and your challenges. But even with supportive people in your corner, you'll still need to face your challenges head on. And that brings us to the next big struggle gifted people often face: the fear of failure and the challenge of building true resilience. growing up gifted can leave you with a deep fear of failure. You're always expected to meet high standards, so any stepbacks can feel like a personal attack. And it's understandable to feel this way, but remember, life is built on setbacks, and true growth comes from developing the resistance to overcome them. And this is something that Asushi demonstrates perfectly. Because of his difficult upbringing, Asushi started out timid, anxious, and just full of self doubt. But throughout his journey, he's repeatedly forced to confront powerful enemies and dangerous situations. And each time he's pushed to his limits, Asushi doesn't just survive, he grows stronger. Even Akutagawa, Atsushi's fiercest rival, admits that honestly, Atsushi becomes a more bothersome enemy every time he overcomes a challenge. And Atsushi's resilience doesn't come from avoiding failure, but from facing it head on and learning from each experience. So, how can we develop the same inner strength, especially when we've spent our lives conditioned to fear mistakes and setbacks? Well, the key here is to just start small. What's one task or skill you've been avoiding because you're afraid to fail? Whatever it is, I want you to commit to taking one small action to improve it today. Whether that's researching it, practicing just a little bit, or just simply asking someone for advice. Every small step is going to help. And for me, for my own example, I've always struggled with public speaking. Now, to face this fear, I started speaking to prisoners at our local jail through my church. Now, these weren't these big, grandiose speeches or anything like that, but each time I did it, I felt a little more comfortable having real people and not just this camera actually hear my voice. But what I want you to remember is that the key is embracing the learning process. Being gifted doesn't mean you'll never fail. It means you have the capacity to learn and grow from your setbacks. And every small action you take is going to build up this resilience, preparing you for the bigger challenges ahead. Now, being gifted is honestly something you should be pretty proud of, but it can also feel like a heavy burden at times. By following these steps, you'll be able to leverage your gifts and talents without being crushed by the pressure of it all. But there's still one looming danger of pushing yourself too far in pursuit of your greatness. So if you're constantly exhausted from trying to live up to your potential, then watch this next video where I dive into the hidden dangers of greatness and how you can avoid burning out altogether.